Welcome to Sit, Stay, Read, the podcast for every wag, whinny, and whisker. I'm Kathleen Donnelly, award-winning author and retired canine handler. Each week, I chat with novelists about the bond we share with our furry friends and how they inspire stories. Grab a coffee, get cozy with your favorite pet. It's time to sit, stay, read. Well, today I am so excited and honored to have one of my favorite authors on the show. Sandra Brown is a multiple New York Times bestselling author. She's got over 80 million copies worldwide in print. Bloodlust is coming out today, and we are so excited because this is a follow-up to Blood Moon. And so we get to explore some new characters. Sandra, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kathleen, for having me. My pleasure to be here.
Well, it's exciting for me. Your books just keep me on the edge of my seat reading, and this was no exception. Bloodlust was the same way. And tell us a little bit about the storyline and your inspiration and where this one
Well,
came from.
the character of Mitch appeared in Blood Moon as a secondary character. He was the hero's best friend. He was an undercover DEA agent, and I just when I started Blood Moon, I didn't know that Mitch was going to be there. He just appeared, and I thought, and I fell in love with him immediately. And the Fu Manchu mustache because he was working undercover, and then I loved the bromance really between him and John, just what good friends they were, how much they depended on each other, and trust each other, and how Mitch came in anytime that John needed help, he had his back. And yet he provided some comic relief in that
Yes.
book because he had all these wisecracks and everything, took his job very seriously. You did not mess with Mitch. But by the same token, he would come in and say something that was funny. So I just fell in love with him. I thought he deserved his own story. And the truth of it is, I just didn't want to let go of him. So I made him the character of Bloodlust. And because I had to come up with a story for him, I delayed it. So the story opens 2 years after
Okay.
they solved the case in Blood Moon. So this is 2 years after that. And Mitch's life has undergone a drastic, tragic change. And so I put him in a pretty low place when the book
You did.
opens. He's in a bad
You
way.
did.
And he and John are on the outs. And so I hope I did justice to his story. He deserved one, I thought. And so the plot is really a revenge plot.
Yeah.
It's like he has a purpose from the get-go, and he sees it through to the bitter end. And it's like at all costs vengeance. So he really
Yes.
puts a lot on the line in this book, and I think that I'm pleased to hear you say you find them on the edge of your seat kind of books, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I think that Mitch's story in particular, because he's dealing with some really, really evil people in this,
He
and
is.
he
He's
has a
dealing.
great love interest.
He does. Let's talk a little bit about Dylan because I really liked her. She was a good yin and yang to Mitch. She was definitely a good opposite, but has her own backstory, has her own grief she's working through. So
Yes,
I like that.
exactly. Yeah. And in most of my books, I like to think that a lot of them are told from the male point of view. I don't know when I evolved into that, but once I did, I really liked it. And I think it's because I'm looking from the female point of view at the male. And sometimes it's easier for me to portray what they feel or what they're doing, because I'm looking at them from my perspective, which is female. Um, Dylan, I thought, certainly lived up, and I'm glad you think so too, uh, to the problem that they come to face together. And you're not sure about her at first,
Yeah.
so she has a little mystery. But as we learn, as her character emerges, more fully in the story, we learned that she had dealt with a very similar situation that sent Mitch on the skids. And so I really felt like they were, as you say, yin and yang. She didn't
Yeah.
she didn't put up with too much from him,
She
and
didn't.
and he recognized that, although he's cheeky. He's always
It's cheeky.
he's pretty smart, and pulls things on her, but she kind of gives as good as she gets in the story. And I think that in my books, what I try to convey to my reader is like, this is not one is the hero and one is the heroine. It's like they're both heroic in their own ways and their own perspective. And each of them is trying to solve a common problem that they have, and it's relatable to both of them in some way. So they're like a team protagonist. It's not one or the other. They're kind of an entity together. So
Yeah, I love that. And I I think one of the things I love too with your characters, they're so realistic and then you add these there's little conflicts, big conflicts. Obviously, people are after them, so there's a big conflict. But here she is a therapist who there's so many lines she can't cross
yes,
and he's telling her there's lines he can't cross. I love
right.
that. Does that come out as you write, or is that something you play with from the beginning?
Well, again, I kind of play with that from the beginning. I've always
Okay.
said, excuse me, I've always said, if your heroine uh, is well, let me put it this way. If your hero is a fireman, your heroine should be an arsonist.
Okay. All right, I love
So that
that.
they automatically have a not necessarily contentious, but sometimes contentious, relationship, which only makes
Yeah.
the sparks, hotter,
Yeah.
the attraction they cannot resist. And in this one, definitely, he's mandated to see a psychologist, a
Mhm.
counselor, and she's it. And she's assigned to him, and he has no choice in the matter. And so their first scene together, which I actually used as an excerpt that the link to it will be posted today.
Oh,
But
fantastic.
it's their first meeting, and how right off the bat, they get off to a bad start. Uh, for all the reasons that you've said, I mean, definitely. And I even talked to my therapist and said, okay, bear with me on this. I know you've never had any inkling about this, but what lines, and I told her the plot, and she said, "Oh, Sandra, only you would come up with it."
I love it.
And so I've teased her about it, and I said, "I won't ask from personal experience. It's just, give me the guidelines here." And so, but it was a fun book to write. I liked their spark. I liked
Yeah, I like it too.
their immediate attraction to each other, but
Mhm.
also they're forbidden to each other.
Yeah.
And that's the key word. If it's
Yeah.
easy, then it's not exciting. There has to be a reason why a relationship between the two of them would be dicey, a little bit beyond the pale.
Mhm.
So there has to be something that's keeping them apart at the same time they can't keep their hands off each other. So I
Yeah.
build that.
Yeah.
So forbidden is definitely an element that when I'm plotting a book, I try to find, okay, what is it about the other that, would repel the other? And I give them both something that would just really grate on the other.
I love that. And then you have these interesting antagonists. You have these, I don't want to give too much away because we need to keep
Yep.
it,
Yeah.
spoiler alert free, but just really fascinating antagonists. And that's true for your books as well. How do you develop the opposite side, because they are
Well,
definitely their own story. They love their own
my
stories.
family and friends worry about that. Because they say, "Where do you come up with it?" I go, maybe an evil twin. I don't know, but I do try to make my villains villainous because somebody smarter than I don't even remember where I read it or saw it, but it was in some kind of trade journal or article or something. And someone wrote years ago that I read, your story is only as strong as your villain.
Oh, I love that.
Your protagonist you expect to be strong, the one who's going to overcome, if possible, this villain, but it's got to be something really bad. It's got to be something frightening in one way or another, or threatening in one way or another. It's
Yeah.
got to be real. And as you said, the the villains are as important a character to me as the protagonist. They may not get as much face time, but they're the hero of their own story. They
Yeah.
feel like they're justified in everything they do, oftentimes just because they're them.
Yes.
That they can be totally sociopathic and think, well, none of the rules apply to
Right.
me. Or it can be someone that's just terribly mean, just mean by
Yeah.
nature, and enjoys being mean. So they don't have much of a conscience either. So I try to make them somebody that you would not want to know, and yet I often make them some not a villain that you see coming. I mean, if
Yes.
you were to
Yeah.
meet, some woolly booger in a dark alley or something, you would avoid that. But it can be someone who's just so good at being devious, enough to get by with it. And also, somebody pointed out in an interview years ago, and they said, "Do you realize your books are kind of thematic in one way?" And I said, "What way?" And it was like the abuse of power. You
Oh,
have a
yeah. Okay. I
real
can see that.
issue with the abuse of power. And I said, I I guess I do. And Oz, the bad guy in Bloodlust, obviously abuses, the power that people have vested in him. And so that I guess
Yeah.
that is in the back of my mind. I guess that is one of really the things that bother me a lot.
Yeah.
Is someone in a position of authority or power and totally abuses it, and um, to the detriment of a lot of people.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a, I guess, recurring theme. But I do try to make my villains villainous.
And they are. I mean, they kept me, I was like, I mean, even though I kind of knew the two main villains, you let us in
Yeah.
pretty quickly. I was like, oh my gosh, I was not expecting them to do that. Or,
Yeah, there are a
so
lot. There are a lot of bad guys in this book. I mean,
there are.
they're coming at Mitch from all sides. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you had me guessing on some of them. There was a few I was like, I wonder if that's gonna be, but again, we won't go down that road because I don't want to ruin it for the readers. I was curious, kind of changing gears slightly. I know you did a USO tour, and Mitch is a
Yeah.
Marine veteran, and
Yeah.
obviously you've had other military characters. How much did that tour influence the characters that the
Well,
military?
I it was as you can imagine, a USO tour to Afghanistan
Yeah.
was a life-changing experience. Um, I was watching briefly this morning. I didn't see all of it, but they're awarding the Medal of Honor, Congressional Medal of Honor today. And I just, I'm just riveted by things like that because when we were over there, and I went with a group from International Thriller Writers,
Okay.
and the impact I think it had on all of us. I mean, I can only speak to myself, but I think all of us were impacted by that. Is that we knew we were going to leave in 9 days,
Yeah.
but there are service members that were going to be there for over a year.
Yeah.
And many were showing us, pictures of their babies that they hadn't
Wow.
seen. They were
Wow.
showing us, there were a lot of, female service members who were showing us pictures of their children. They had to leave with their husband or leave with their mother or, whatever. And it was, I just think that we forget the huge sacrifice that they make.
Yeah.
And we greatly admired them and we depended on them because
Yeah.
uh, we were all rookies. None of us had ever been in combat zones before, I don't think. Maybe Mark Bowden had. I'm not sure. He wrote Black Hawk Down. And
Okay.
I'm not sure if that was from military experience or he's just an amazing writer. Um, but we learned a lot and we were over there just to meet and greet. I told them we were the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders in disguise, but they didn't go
I
for
love
that.
it.
They didn't buy it at
They didn't
all.
believe you, huh?
Especially Clive Cussler. He did not look like a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. But we did meet and greets, and they would uh, bring our books, for us to sign, and we
Oh,
would
cool.
have first of all go into the commander of the base that we were at that particular day, and meet with some of the commanding officers. But then we would get, out with the regular the regular ones and it was just so touching
Yeah.
because we considered ourselves going over there to thank them.
Mhm.
Well, what was so humbling to us is how grateful they were that we were there.
Yeah.
And I, we had three men, Mark Bowden, Clive Cussler, and Andrew Peterson. And then
Wow.
we had Kathy Reichs
Oh,
and
wow.
I.
Okay.
And so they put up we were staying in a bee hut, a base hut, which is built of plywood. Everything in it is built of plywood. And they put up a plywood wall partition between us and the men so that we would have our own, little separate room there. Had to use the latrines that were about 150 yards away.
Wow.
I mean, it was an adventure. It was a no
Sounds like it.
frills trip, but we had good escorts, excellent escorts. And the whole time it was just, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming. They're so eager to hear anything from home. And I thought,
Yeah.
well, besides my, you know, romantic suspense novels, what am I going to talk to these people about? And I thought, well, the women are easier. Talk about
No.
family or what it's like to be over there and not be able to get your nails done, your hair done, or,
Yeah.
all of the things that are just so important to me. And so I thought, football. I'm a big football fan.
Nice.
So I could always say, okay, is it the Eagles or the Cowboys? Is it the Yankees or the Mets? And that would start I know the Yankees and Mets are baseball, but I did that too.
Yeah.
But it was sports, or what college did you go to? Oh, the Buckeyes, of course, and
Yeah.
it would be something like that to establish a rapport, so that I wasn't just, an author that they couldn't relate to. It would be
Yeah.
something like, oh man, I love my Sunday afternoon football, and all of that. So I tried to establish a rapport. But all of us, really got down with them and talked
Good.
about, different things, but all of them were so grateful. And it really did shed a new perspective on just the sacrifice. I mean, I've always been, you know, thinking about them, praying for them, but
Yeah.
this was really a one-on-one where you come back and thought, man, and one of the most touching discussions I had while we were there, it was on the day we were leaving, and we were flying back with like 300 troops
Wow.
and troopers,
Wow.
and so we had it's the hurry up and wait you always hear about, in the, in the services. And we waited for like 12 hours. We had to report at a certain time, don't be late or you'll be left, kind of thing. And then we sat, forever. But I talked to a chaplain,
Oh, wow.
and that was tough. I mean, I cried. I got tears in my eyes,
Yeah.
and uh and he was telling me about, he said, the 27 people that, service members that I've had to say goodbye to. And that was, it was just, and I said, I don't know how you do that, and he said, well, I'm led to do it. And but
Wow.
it was really a touching time.
Oh, it really sounds amazing. Thank you for sharing all that because it's something I've always wondered about and
Yeah.
uh
It
and
was
uh
an
it's
experience. It was an
yeah.
experience.
Yeah, it gives a new, you thank someone for their service, but it really gives a new perspective, doesn't it?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Cool. Well, since again, changing gears a little bit, this is Sit Stay Read, so we feature a lot of animals and animal books. And I hope you don't mind. I saw an Instagram reel where you talked about horseback riding. Someone asked you about riding horses, and I enjoyed your stories. Would you be up for sharing it with our
Oh
listeners
yeah,
again?
yeah.
Okay.
We're doing, I say we, my marketing lady that does all of that for me, but does all the video and everything. And we're doing a kind of a series thing called Ask Me Anything, and it's on
Okay.
Instagram and TikTok. And they can post a question, and then she sorts through them, and I sort through them. I'm like, oh, that'll be. And she had printed out a list for me, and it was, do you ride horseback? And I guess being from Texas, it's expected. And I'm not a horsewoman by any stretch of the imagination. I do ride. I may have done my last one, as I said in the interview, because, or in the TikTok, because my first experience was when I was about maybe 3 or 4 years old. And I had a great uncle, Uncle Fred, and he had a ranch up in North Texas. And so one Sunday we went up there with my grandma and grandpa, my mom and dad, and I was all dressed up for the visit, mother was showing me off to all the relatives I didn't see very often. And so they put me on this nag that he had that wasn't gonna do anything. They said, "Oh, just so she'll just stand there." And so they put me up there, and that horse turned around and bit me on the foot. And so that was my first traumatic experience, but I got over it. And, when we would go on vacation, we'd take trail rides and things like that. And I love to be in that culture. I love the cowboy culture. I live in Fort Worth. So, I mean,
Okay, so that's
I have to love it.
rodeo,
But
yeah.
I do. I grew up here and I just love the cowboy culture. So, um, I got over it and I'd ridden several times, but always very structured, not just
Yeah.
chasing across the prairie. And so the last time was in Jackson Hole, and all my family was there, and we were
Nice.
gonna, we scheduled a trail ride up through the Tetons. It's so
Yeah.
pretty and everything. And when they had cowboys, the ranch hands there, to boost you up, or they had a box, that you could climb on it, a mounting box. And so I had gotten on pretty well. When I had to dismount, they said, "Okay, we don't have it. You're gonna throw your right leg over and then just kind of slide down." And I was like, "What?"
What?
I just kind of slide down the saddle until your feet touch the ground. Well, the ground had never seemed so far below. And my family, of course, was hysterical. And I have four grandsons,
Oh
so
no.
they were all, belly laughing. And so I finally got on the ground and I turned around and they had all gotten it on video
Oh
and
no.
everything. I said, "If y'all ever post that, I'm going to kill you. You're out of the whip." You're out. And so anyway, it was funny. And I thought, maybe I shouldn't try this again. So those were my first and probably my last experiences on horseback, but I love the whole culture of it. Yeah.
I love it. Do you have any other pets, dogs, cats, any?
Oh, I don't have any pets right now. I had
Okay.
two golden retrievers
Aw.
who were named after the brothers in the Texas trilogy. I had Chase and Lucky, and they were litter mates. They were of the
Oh
same
wow.
litter. I picked them up when they were 7 weeks old, just weaned, and I had them until they were 12 years old, and I had to put them down the same day. One had
Oh.
gotten a little senile and was doing, some bizarre things, and the other one was a little bit larger than his brother. He was the steady one. The other one was a rascal, uh, but Chase had dysplasia. Is that what it's
Okay.
called? The
Hmm.
hip thing.
Hip dysplasia,
And
yeah.
he was heavy. He was over 90 pounds, and so he was having difficulties, and things were just going wrong. And
Yeah.
so I asked, the vet, and he said, "Well, we can give him some steroids and, put them." And I go, I don't want anybody giving me steroids when just to prolong my life. And they
Yeah.
had a wonderful life. They were cherished by everybody who knew them. They were the best dogs ever. And
Nice.
so after putting them down, I just thought, I don't know if I can do this again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It broke my heart. But there was a dog in Blood Moon. The hero had rescued a dog from underneath his pickup truck one morning, and he named him Mutt. And Mutt was integral to so many scenes in that book. He was right in there with them the whole time, and I just fell in love with Mutt too. But yeah.
Oh, I
And
love it.
I have grandcats and granddogs, so
I love it. Four-legged grandkids are as
yes,
fun as
yes.
the
And
two-legged
they're
ones.
better behaved sometimes than the other four.
They didn't film you getting off that horse, did they?
No, no.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I am curious, what's up next? And will we see some of these characters come back in the future?
I doubt it. I have, I've never, except for the Texas trilogy that I mentioned, I had Chase was the older brother, Lucky was the middle, and then their sister, Sage. And so my two dogs were Chase and Lucky. But I never have been really interested in writing a series. And so many of my colleagues, like Kathy, so
Yeah.
many of my colleagues write series books. And I never have thought that I would be that clever, that I couldn't continue to come up with good stories with the same characters. But there have been, like Mitch, for instance, in Bloodlust, the hero in Bloodlust,
Yes.
um, that it just captured, my heart, and I wasn't ready to let them go. And so I have taken, and I always did the books sequentially because they were so fresh on my mind, and I knew the readers, would really remember them. Uh, and so I had done, oh, probably maybe 7 or 8 times, maybe at the most, where I'd taken a character and gave them their own story. But other than that, I never have been interested in, just reinventing the wheel, it would feel like to me, I think. And
Yeah.
so I'm usually excited to get on with a new cast of characters and solve someone else's, terrible trouble. And the one I just finished, the first draft, only the first draft, which takes the longest,
Yeah.
of my next book, and started editing, started all the rewriting today because you ask 100 authors and they'll all give you their different style of doing
Yeah.
it. But I like to get the story out first, but then I go back and I take apart every sentence, every paragraph, every scene, and rewrite till I feel like it's presentable. Uh, and and then I go to the next chapter. But I put it through a pretty good shredder,
Yeah.
to milk the most out of every single scene. And what are they feeling? What are they afraid of? What do they want? What happens if they don't get it? And why now? And that's a David Mamet um, mandate. He said every scene should move the plot forward, and it should be, what does he want? What happens if he doesn't get it? And why now? It can't be something that can be postponed. So I kind of put every scene through that criteria and make sure it's all there. And the other parts, the sexual tension, is that in this scene? Find the sex in this
Yeah.
scene. One little thing, but find the sex. And um, there are several little exercises I put it through just to make sure that I have done the best I could with that particular scene.
Oh, I love that because I think the hard work comes out because then when we read it, it reads so easily. I think that shows the hard work behind the scenes that, as readers, sometimes we forget goes into it. So,
Yeah, it is hard
yeah,
work. It's a love-hate
yeah.
relationship. I love my job. I love what I do. I loved it from the day I started. And I loved it last Friday when I put the last period to the last chapter of this book. It's like, whew, the story's out. It's crap right now, but I'll make it better. And I really can't wait to get started after tour is over. really can't wait to get started and start back at chapter one. And sometimes I'll think, oh yeah, this chapter gave me so much trouble, and I'll attack it. And then other times I'll go, that's a really good paragraph. I don't even remember writing that one, but it's good. And I thank my subconscious for letting my fingers, do the talking.
I love it. Well, it comes through. What is the best way for readers to connect with you? Is it your social media or is there a
Yes,
better way?
I'm all over now that Kim has taken it over because it wasn't my forte. As I said, I'm not a techie. I don't stay on my phone all the time, double thumbing it. I've never learned to do that. I type with my right ring finger. I don't know why.
I
That's
love
just
it.
how it started. But I'm on, let's see if I can remember all of them, on TikTok, which is new. I've
Okay.
only been on there a little over a year. And we
Okay.
started about the time that Blood Moon was released. Um, and it's official Sandra Brown. All one word,
Okay.
official Sandra Brown, because there are a lot of Sandra Browns in the world, but also there are a lot of people that do a TikTok on me that isn't me.
Oh,
So
wow.
this one
Okay.
says official Sandra Brown. On Instagram, I'm author Sandra Brown. And I think on Facebook you can just type in Sandra Brown and I will come up. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the
Oh,
show today.
I've enjoyed our conversation. I hope I didn't dominate it too much. I get
Oh,
on a
no,
roll and
no.
we writers have to be solitary all day long, and we only talk to our characters, and that's in our head.
Yes.
And so when I get an opportunity to talk, it's just like blah blah blah.
I understand. Well, I appreciate it. I love it because it's been so much fun. And
Well,
everyone, if you love thrilling suspense, some steamy romance, make sure you get your copy of Bloodlust out today. And until next time, keep your tails wagging and pages turning. Thanks for joining me today. Sit, Stay, Read is a part of the Authors on the Air Global Network. If you enjoyed today's author interview, be sure to leave a review and share the episode with a fellow animal-loving reader. If you're curious about the world of working dogs and wilderness adventures, please check out my books at KathleenDonnelly.com. Until next time, curl up with your best furry friend and sit, stay, read.